Hello, it's Rebecca here from Precious Pages Papercraft, and I'm back sharing a layout for Peartree Cutfiles. And I'm working with one of the August Pearscription files today. So Pearscriptions are the monthly subscriptions, and subscribers get sent 5 exclusive cut files every month. And you can subscribe either as a pre-cut customer or a digital customer. And like I said, these are exclusive, so these files will never be available for sale in the general store. They are for subscribers only. So this month is my turn to work with the Pearscriptions, and the first file I've chosen to use is one of the title ones, and it says, "Let's find some beautiful place to get lost." And I really love that. So I've cut it from smooth white cardstock, and I want to add some mixed media to it. So I've left it stuck to my cutting mat in the hope that it doesn't warp too much. And I've not bothered with any gesso. I've been a bit brave and just gone for it, mainly because my clear gesso all just disappeared in the bottle. One day it was there, and the next day it all kind of evaporated into thin air, so I'm not really sure what happened to it, and I haven't yet remembered to replace it. So I'm going in without gesso here, so fingers crossed everything works out. I'm using my Jane Davenport Mermaid watercolour markers. These are really pigmented pens, and you just give them a little squeeze and loads of ink comes out. So I'm watering them down quite a bit because they are really pigmented and quite intense. I've picked out 3 different shades of kind of blue and green tones, and I'm kind of trying to do each line or each word as an ombre effect. So I'm starting with an almost turquoisey blue at the top, going down into more of a deep navy blue, and then going into a green at the bottom. You can see I started at the top with the word let's, and then I moved down to beautiful, and then I've gone back up again. That's just trying to let each word dry in between so that they don't all run too much. So I'm just adding some water, then adding the pens, and then using a paintbrush just to move the paint and the water around a little bit, trying to get those pens to blend a bit. So just take a little bit of time to do this, and then I'm going to use my heat gun and dry this on the mat. Again, that's just to try and stop it from warping. I've done this once before, and then when I tried to remove the cut file, it wasn't fully dry and it all ripped in my hands. So I am going to make sure that this is fully dry. I'm not going to have a repeat of what happened with the previous cut file. So I've sort of fast forwarded through all the drying, done that with my heat gun. And then I've gone off camera to peel it off my mat very carefully, and it actually worked. I was really impressed with it. So I've got my cut file now with all my mixed media, and then I've cut it a second time from white cardstock, and I'm going to stick the two together but slightly offset so that the white is just showing to the left, kind of like a shadow effect. And that's because I want to add some mixed media to my background in similar colours to what I've used to colour the cut file. So I needed something to help give that file a bit of separation, so I'm hoping that the white is going to do that once I've popped that on top of my mixed media. So the photo I've got today is of my little boy. It's taken from behind him, so you can't actually see his face at all, but I really love the photo. We were at one of our local National Trust sites, and they've got the most beautiful massive pond. It's stunning. It's got a little fountain in the middle, and it's full of flowers and lily pads and reeds, and it's really stunning. It's a lovely place to go, and he was just stood looking out over the pond. So like I said, you can't see his face, but I just really love the photo because we just love the pond, and like the title suggests, you can just get lost there. We go and have a picnic and just sit there for hours. It's just lovely. So I'm going to be using that photo with the file. You've just saw me add some mixed media to the background there. That was a distress ink in Mermaid Lagoon, and I've just used the packaging technique to add that to my background. And now I'm coming in with using a cut file as a stencil. So this one is called Overlapping Circles, and I've shrunk it down to, I think it's about 7 by 7 inches. And as you can see, I've used it a few times now. It's already discoloured, but I'm just using some distress inks and a blending brush just to add a bit more detail to the background in certain areas. So I've used the Mermaid Lagoon again, and then this smaller one here is one of the mini distress inks. This is Evergreen Bough, which is kind of like a dark, almost marine green type colour. So I'm just adding that in some areas for a bit of variation in colour. And then I'm going to come in with the Black Soot Distress Ink, which as the name suggests is black. That's feeling a little bit brave. I wanted to have some darker areas. So I'm not going mad or pushing too heavy or anything like that. I just wanted a subtle few areas of darker colour. And again, just pressing that through the stencil. So once that's done, I bring my cut file back in, and I'm a bit unsure at this stage. I'm not sure the cut file stands out enough. I know the cut file says let's find somewhere to get lost, but I didn't want my cut file to get lost on my page. So I started putting the letters back in to see if that helped it stand out a bit more, but I actually didn't like that because I'd used that white cut file to kind of offset it. The letters just didn't look right sat inside it. I wasn't happy with that. Then I thought about backing the letters in black, and I didn't like that either. So instead I'm just going to add some more to my background, as if the file wasn't getting lost enough already. So I'm coming in, that was black acrylic paint there. I've watered down and added some splatters. And now I'm going to do the same thing with some white gesso to add some white splatters. And I'm hoping that with this, that it will, I know this sounds bizarre, but obviously whiten up the background a bit and give me a bit of white space amongst all the busyness for the cut file to sit on top. And I know that sounds like a complete madness, but in my mind it kind of works a little bit. And I do think by having these white splatters, it does help that cut file stand out just a little bit more. So yeah, white splatters are a good idea for things like that. I have seen Missy Ridden previously come in with white gesso over her backgrounds to try and lighten them up, but I just wasn't feeling brave enough for that. So I've added some splatters, and I love my background and I love my mixed media cut file, and I really don't want to have to change any of it. So I've decided I'm going to go with it and hope that once I've got some embellishments on the place that it will stand out a bit. I'm not too fussed that it doesn't stand out a lot on camera because I'm going to be looking at the layout in real life, and in real life it does stand out a little bit more than it does on film. So by the end of it I am happy with it. Like I said, it does show up a bit more in real life, and I will try and capture that in the close-ups, but yeah, it might be a bit difficult. So I wanted to have something down the sides of the layout, and I've pulled out this black and white gingham patterned paper, and I've torn a couple of strips to go down the side. I did think about having 2 strips just on the left there and layering them for a bit of a distressed look, but instead I've decided to do one either side. And I've purposely torn them so that you don't have the white edge showing. It means the white edge is underneath, and then that just gives me a tiny bit of room to be able to fold, like I'm doing here, a bit of the edges back. The pattern on the back of this paper is like a mustard yellow with black and white florals on it. So I didn't want to roll that back slightly and distress the edges and have that yellow showing. And then I've used the same pattern paper just to add a layer of that behind my photo, just to give it a bit of separation from the background. And now I want to add some sequins to my background, but I want to do it a bit randomly. I don't want to have to sit here placing them all. So I've got some quick dry tacky glue, and I'm literally just squeezing it out onto my layout, using a plastic spatula to kind of smush it on my background, and then I'm just pouring sequins directly on it, and they're just sticking in that area where all the glue is. So this blue mix is by, well, they're both from Spiegelmum Scraps. This blue one is called Oceanside Breeze. It's one of the newer releases, and it's absolutely stunning. Possibly the shiniest, sparkliest sequin mix I have ever seen. It's so iridescent and so many different shades of blue in it. It's absolutely beautiful. You'll see in the close-ups at the end just how pretty it is. So I've added loads of those to my background, and then I just wanted to have a few scattered about, coming out a bit further from the cut file. So I'm just doing those ones individually, just putting a couple of dots of glue and then sticking individual sequins down. And this helps me be a bit pickier with which shade of blue to use as well, just to try and get a bit of an even spread. And then I'm just going to do a similar thing with the black, just add a few dots of glue here and there, and then just add individual sequins on top of that, just to have a bit of a splash of black. I've got some black in my background, I've obviously got black in that pattern paper, and my photo is black and white, so I wanted to have the black sequins as well. And this mix is called Penguin Soup, and again it's by Spiegelmum Scraps, so I'll pop a link in the description box below that will take you to the Spiegelmum Scraps store. If anybody wants to order some sequins, use that link because it will give you an automatic discount at check-in. And sequins and cut files go perfectly together, don't they? Especially if you want to make shaker pockets, which is one of my favourite things to do. You can never have too many sequins and cut files, I say. So whilst I let that glue and those sequins dry in place, I'm going to add some foam behind my cut file to raise it up from the background. So I've got some white craft foam here, it's adhesive on one side. I've cut it into really, really thin strips, and I'm now going around each letter on the back, adding that foam to help me raise my cut file up. I'm going to fast forward through most of this. You don't need to sit there watching me do that, it takes forever. And then I'm just going to go over all of that foam with some quick dry glue again, and commit and get that stuck down to my background. Then I can start working on my finishing touches. So just like my cut file, I want my photo raised up from that background as well. This is just kind of another technique to try and help them pop from the page a bit and draw your eye to them. Obviously I've already mentioned that I was a bit worried about the cut file getting lost, but having it raise it up on foam pads really helps it stand out. So I've done the same thing with my photo as well, just so that doesn't get lost. I've added some acrylic perspectives here, little geotags. Those are from Bramble Fox, and I thought they worked really well with the idea of getting lost in a place, little geotags. So I've scattered, I think, 3 of those around the page. I've also brought in a black and white flare, and now I'm popping on some Peartree Pieces. So I love this mix. It's got a couple of different shades of almost like turquoise and teal, and it's also got some really gorgeous, sparkly, glittered felt pieces. All in the shape of hearts, so I'm just scattering a load of those around my layout, adding some foam behind that flare, just so that it's got a contact point to stick to that background, doing a cursory check there to make sure none of the sequins fall off or anything. And that was just another of those glittered felt pieces I've added there. And then I decided I want to add a couple of the lighter blue kind of turquoisey ones as well, just for a bit more variation. So I've got a lovely scattering of Peartree Pieces on the layout. My sequins are still all falling off. I will just leave it to one side once I finish, just to make sure that they are all stuck. And you can see how pretty this is looking and all shimmery and sparkly, and you can also see that kind of ombre effect on the cut file there. And just got one more finishing touch. I just wanted to add a couple of these butterflies. These are from Vicky Boutin's Colour Study collection, and there's a whole sheet of them, and I've fussy cut the whole sheet. So just adding a couple of those there, just for a bit more of the kind of black and white tones. And that's my layout finished. So thank you very much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed this and find some inspiration in it. Lots of mixed media obviously going on today, and lots of sparkle and shimmer. And obviously you've got added shimmer with the sequins and the Peartree Pieces as well. I will pop links in the description box below to the products I've used. I'll also pop a link to the Pearscriptions sign up page if anyone is interested in becoming a subscriber. I'll also pop a link to the Peartree Cutfiles Facebook group if you're not already a member. Do head over and join, you'll find loads of inspiration in the group. But until next time, I shall leave you with the close-ups and see you then.